It's the weekly 30-30 trading list on the ASX. These are the 30 best momentum companies, being the strongest quarterly momentum. And then we have a look at the week's 30 best high velocity shift. These are companies that are building bases before a breakout. Stocks that are running or starting to run. Gary Glover has scanned this week's list and surfaced his favourite charts for us. Good morning, Gary. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Chris.
So, well, you're consistently looking at the markets, you're trawling for the best trading opportunities, and you've got this list and you've run through it to find out which ones you like best. If we start off with the momentum ones, the ones that are relative strength, really running harder and faster than the rest of the market, was there anything in there that caught your eye?
Yeah, the one sector that sort of caught my eye, which is obviously I guess the strongest stocks by the quarter, are definitely the coal stocks. Obviously, New Hope, Whitehaven, and Coronado CRN as well. So, we were seeing there with New Hope there with, after that sort of pullback in November there, once we sort of broke out to a new high in December, then it really started trending pretty aggressively. There's been a few little sideways consolidations, and then starting in vertical there. The only thing to be sort of mindful of here is that they're, this thing's sort of winding up now, getting a bit vertical, which is so it's getting a little stretched. And the most interesting thing on the chart there, actually, the last 3 days, we've actually seen probably the biggest volume as well. So, oftentimes if I see big volume at the start of a move, that's sort of accumulation. If I see big volume after a big move, then that could be distribution as well. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, obviously the coal stocks have been definitely the strongest of the quarter, but they are looking looking a little scary here now, looking a little vertical. Whitehaven there is sort of probably just broken out of the consolidation, so maybe a little bit lagging compared to New Hope. Again, a couple of consolidations there, broken out. Once you're sort of broken out of that little sideways range there in that North December, definitely really got going. The one that is a little bit behind is the Coronado. That's sort of in a bit of a consolidation phase at the moment. So that's sort of has been consolidating in a bit of a kind of flag there. So maybe it's got one more leg in it, but pretty late stage here too. So I mean, you've really had little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. So it's almost like you've had 9 or 11 drives here. So I remember McLaren used to sort of say, like once you sort of give me 11 or 13 drives here, you're getting really late in the move here. So we're no doubt we're getting really late in the move for those coal stocks there, but had some credible momentum there. So those are probably the first sector that sort of stood out. There was a couple of sort of one-offs in there. I think EMV's had a bit of a pop, probably a little bit liquid there, sort of the trade. That's probably one just to sort of keep an eye on, get a pullback. That EOS, which we mentioned last week, that's had a second week follow through here. So probably waiting for a bit of a consolidation here to see what happens on a pullback there. But that's definitely another one to sort of keep an eye on, because it's sort of still sort of early in the move, even though it does come up, as a quarterly move there, it has had a big move. So no doubt it's hit the radar just because of that sort of size move. The ones that I did sort of like here, Lionttown there has sort of come out of the consolidation. So after that sort of a bit of a sideways overlapping consolidation there, it has sort of broken above a swing high there. And I was sort of talking earlier, I like when they sort of, if they break above 2 little swing highs, that's usually a good signal there. So that has sort of broken up there. So typically that looks like a bit of a fourth wave type of setup from a, if you're anyone who studies with Elliott wave, and then normally you get a fifth wave, you get going new high then. So volume's okay here without being super, but oftentimes your fifth waves are always on lighter volume, but constructive here, but just sort of suggesting me they can sort of go to, they should be able to go to new highs in that sort of trend there. But that's the way they normally go. But as I say, it doesn't always work out perfectly, but the odds do favour a new high there. Same with, well, actually probably not same with Vulcan, but Vulcan has sort of come out of the consolidation, breaking above a high there. So again, we've sort of got lighter volumes here. So this one's probably a deeper move, as opposed to the Lionttown. That correction is more sideways. So when you get a sort of more tighter sideways move, that's when you're more likely to go to a new high. And the Vulcan is obviously, you might say it's overlapping there, but it's more of a sort of descending wedge. So you can get a bounce here, but probably not as strong as an LTR. But again, we've sort of got, after sort of making lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, we've broken above a swing high there. That's the first sort of positive sign. So volume.
Could that be shortening of the thrust with Vulcan?
Yeah, so you get a little bit of your VCR sort of pattern in there, consolidation phase there, sort of descending wedge. So there's a lot of different technical terms there, but yeah, we are sort of starting to sort of, we've effectively sort of broken that little downtrend there. So I just like to sort of see, price tighten up, which is done, volume lighten up, which is sort of get into the low. We want to see strong volume out of the low, which you probably haven't seen big volume. So it means you can still get a move there, but maybe you just don't get a big move. We've just talked that past, but still sort of somewhat constructive. You can still get a nice, if it's a fifth wave or a final wave, or you can still get a bit of a move on the lighter volumes, but just got to watch them a little more carefully, I guess. The one that we spoke about earlier in the week actually was Mount Gibson, and so in that iron ore space, a little bit late here, but what we saw there was a classic ABC sit on top of the previous high. So that's a really good setup there. And we saw the volume pretty light too. We saw good volume off this drive, and we saw light volume in a pullback, and we've got going here. So again, we've sort of got our classic congestion, sit on top of the high. That's when we can sort of go to new high. So once we go to new high, that's when we go to careful there. So maybe we can push on a bit further towards 65 there. But once you sort of start getting up there, getting a bit elevated. But this type of this is a classic sort of seeing this ABC little 3-week pullback, lighter volume sitting on top of highs. I mean, that's exactly what Maya did. It's taken off, and sort of that's a really good setup for people to look out for. Particularly, if your strong sectors are getting a bit of strength in the sector, and then have a cool off, sit on top of the previous high. That's really. But the beauty of that is, you can sort of, once you sort of get a bit of tone in there, where your sort of stop is, kind of where you're wrong. So, So those are ones that I liked in the quarterly. And if we sort of just look at the shorter term moves, again, like a lot of these sort of lithium, rare earth sort of electric car type of stocks there sort of look pretty interesting there. So Pilbara PLS obviously had a bit of a downward move there, probably a little bit more vertical. You probably like to sort of see this sort of a sideways move, but again, it's after the field downtrend was sort of broken up here. Again, the volumes aren't awesome, but yeah, somewhat constructive here. So probably means we get a bit of a bounce back in the range, but not sort of seeing the volumes to get excited about. LTR was one we covered. That looks pretty good. I think Vulcan was another one that we covered as well. It looks okay, not awesome volumes there. I think Syrah was on the list as well. That's had quite a nice little pop there. It's actually had some reasonable volume. So this is sort of one that actually, it's a pretty deep pullback. So that's probably the negative, is having a deep pullback like this, but it is a stock. Historically, it does have deep pullbacks. So it's not out of character for this to have a deep pullback. So what's most interesting is sort of volume sort of coming there. So definitely one to keep an eye on. There. Some sort of little consolidation here, up to one sort of one to follow there. So that one does look okay. A couple other stocks in that sort of the 1 week sort of high momentum list that sort of looked interesting was Nuix. So had a really sort of little tight descending sort of wedge pattern there. And all the volume sort of dried up as well, and then it has sort of bounced out of that. The only thing you don't see here, Chris, is big volume. So we're seeing a bit of a relief rally. So maybe something that might be a short covering rally here, but we're not seeing big volume there. So not a nice little technical pattern there, but the volumes are not sort of suggesting this is going to be a massive move here. But yeah, nice little counter move. The other one on the weekly move there was 40X. Has actually had a nice move. So had a bit of a jump, actually some reasonable volume in this. So compared to the year, some pretty decent volumes, and that's sort of coming off quite a pretty heavy consolidation, downward decline, even more aggressive. So that does look like a good rush at low there. So the interesting thing here is that actually it's had a really good pop, good volume, and then it's really tightened up here. So that's almost like a little high tight flag, isn't it? So yeah, so that does still look pretty constructive to me. Although probably in the risky stocks, maybe too risky for me, but yeah, the technicals actually look pretty good. So yeah, those are the ones that sort of jump out to me on the list. There's a few others in there, but I think it was Nearmap there. But again, look at that. There's a lot of stocks that look like this, sort of strong downtrend, and then we've had a bit of a rally here. And look at the volume; it's just no volume there. So that's the sort of stuff that you've got to be, in my opinion, you've got to stay away from. So
NXL and Nearmap are both rallied substantially, but the volume hasn't shown that there's a real weight or magnitude or follow through behind it.
Yeah, so this could be a trap here. So I mean, the market's out to try and catch as many people out as possible. So when we see a little three-wave rally here, we just don't see any volume here. Obviously, it's a high growth stock here, so growth's getting crunched here, which it has done. At some point, it's going to have a bit of a relief rally, a bit of a short covering rally here, but again, there's no volume in here, so there's really not much commitment in this buying here. So that just sort of tells you this might be a bit of a relief rally. You still probably trade some of these here, just not for me personally. I just sort of find these type of moves, they're short-lived. So we really want to be sort of focusing on sort of stocks that are starting to trend up, been trending up for a while. Maybe stocks that are already above your 50 and moving average already. And then going through some sort of consolidation. So that's probably where I'd probably be leaning towards. But your volume's a little light across the board for a lot of stocks. Only not many sort of really showing great volume, and it is sort of typical of the market there. So from my experience there, so volume's light, can still going to move up, just not get a big move. If you want to try and catch the big moves, which is really what we're all trying to do, we really want to see some commitment in the drive.
So that's important criteria. In this market, we might be seeing opportunities, we might be seeing breakouts, we might be seeing good price chart patterns. But if we're not seeing that connect with the volume follow through, then that's an anomaly that's sort of signaling as a red flag for those kind of trades, is it?
Yeah, even something like EML Payments as well has had a nice little bounce here. But again, there's no volume in it as well. And if we pan out to EML, one thing we've done is we've gone to a new high here on the weekly. And then got crunched and sort of had a bit of a relief rally and then trend down. So we're still making lower high, lower high, lower high. So oftentimes when you make a marginal new high, you go back and make a marginal new low, which is pretty scary downside here. So still seeing heavier volume on the down weeks, lighter volume on the relief rallies here. So yeah, that's the sort of stuff I'd be careful of. Just sort of strong downtrends there and just having these relief rallies on light volume. So see quite a few of them, they just keep coming back down again. So these little classic MGXs, little three-wave rallies, little three-wave rallies, just they're the ones to be sort of careful of there. So
Well, there are very interesting insights not only for the high momentum companies, the high velocity ones that are catching your eye this week, but also understanding how to trade in this current market. So that's a real insight there. And for those who want more detail on this and understand your trades, some people have asked to be notified of these before they start breaking out. That's where they become a client of yours, is it? And talk to you about their portfolios and the trading opportunities?
Yeah, that's right. They can always, I'm not sure we'll catch them all, but we'll try and catch a few of them. So, yeah.
Very good. Well, thank you for the insights, Gary Glover from Novus Capital.
Thanks, Chris.